upcoming season?
Lots.
Any favorite moments?
Well, I love an episode where Quagmire is hitting on a young woman, brings her home, and she lets out when she gets excited. She says, "Giggity," and that causes him worry, and he does an emergency DNA test and discovers it's his daughter. And she's played by Mandy Moore, who brought what we knew she'd bring to it, which is just such skill, but also this kind of sincere sweetness. And Quagmire on a dime becomes the best dad, overprotected dad. But they have a journey, and that's a really good episode, and one that kind of takes Quagmire in a new direction. That's one.
He's always been very overprotective, even of his sister.
Sister and cats.
His cats.
He's his
dad.
An interesting character.
Yeah.
He's an interesting character.
He's
right.
Well, even Meg. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This guy knows.
Good memory.
Yeah. You know what? Ask him.
Any guest stars on this upcoming season other than Mandy Moore you can tell us about?
Bryan Cranston and Niecy Nash are playing Peter's married couple, Peter's new bosses.
They'll be recurring now in the series.
So we have them a lot. We have Johnny Weir and
Tara Lipinski playing themselves.
As if the names couldn't get any bigger.
Well, we also have in a really fun episode where we have the characters doing a DVD commentary on an episode they're watching and that we're seeing, but a whole nother story is revealed in their audio commentary that involves Lois discovering that Peter's paid more. And the Fox executive said, well, that's only because when the show started, he still had to pay alimony to his first wife. And Lois discovers that Peter was married to Sarah Paulson, who plays herself as Sarah Paulson and was fantastic.
One of my favorite episodes was the social media one.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
That was really awesome.
It really was a good one.
Yeah.
Do you have anything similar, or how do you go about structuring that kind of episode?
Well, that's a good question and an interesting story, because that was actually Seth is very hands-off with the show now, but every once in a while, maybe once a season, he'll kind of give you a little cue like, I think this would be a good episode idea. So he said, read this book, and it's So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I forget who wrote it, and it was about people who had screwed up on the internet, like that woman who tweeted that racist thing and then landed at the end of her flight and she was fired and her life was all changed. And so we were sort of thinking, like, what if that happened to Brian? And that was basically how that whole episode came to pass. And we had Artie Johan, who's one of our great writers, wrote it, and it was just funny the whole way through.
Did you mean that one or the one where Meg becomes a social media sensation?
Well, no, I was talking about the one with Brian.
Good. Okay, good.
But I'm saying in general, like when you structure those kind of episodes, like how, like you just said, once in a while you get an idea, someone shoots something at you, so that's how that goes.
Well, that one, as we tried to break that story, we realized it could be a good multi-parter because there's so many elements in that, and it was a decision to end an episode with Brian sort of a sad sack guy living alone, where the humor was coming just from CBS noise and him trying to get in line with his single guy, miserable, right what life. But so that kind of, it presented itself as we were breaking. We realized this could go more and longer, and we would keep him out of the house to make the point that Alec was saying about what can happen when you run afoul.
Another thing about that episode that I liked was how you guys had Peter go through that transition when he became the dude with the man bun, and he became so in episodes like that, how do you pick out a character and say, so you're gonna be, this is gonna happen to you in this episode, and like going through, because I feel like the major part of the story was about Brian.
Right.
So how do you pick out a secondary character?
Just doing the
B story.
Yeah, it's a B story. If we have a story that we know is going to involve Brian, we often will realize, well, it might be easier to involve Stewie in that story, and Stewie visits him, and then we think, well, who do we have that you really want to have in the episode that we haven't addressed? And that might be Peter and Lois, it might be the kids. And so you try to think, can we put in a secondary or B story, we call them. It's smaller in scale throughout. Some of those episodes we take them out of because the Brian Stewie story is big enough, and it's sort of, but we try to think, we'd miss Peter. He's such a great character that you kind of want to make sure he's in
Peter's often the best when we're doing just a series of jokes about one topic. It's like, let's have Peter tell 4 jokes about, I'm having man buns and vaping and,
My favorite of that was millennial CPR. One, two, 1, 2. I'm just gonna have my parents stare at me. I have millennial kids.
So after 17 years, how do you guys keep it fresh and keep new ideas coming?
Great writers and great animators. When the writers we keep making each other laugh, and that's just the key. So if we come up with an idea for an episode, we just sort of read for one the other day that was a love story in each act, a famous love story. That'll be a Valentine's Day episode in a couple seasons. And we just had so much fun just writing jokes about each one of these, classic love stories along the way. So I think that if you have guys that make you laugh, and we have these great animators who bring so much to it themselves, they'll create jokes that we didn't even think of.
We have a writer who's very talented. He used to be Seth's assistant, young guy, and he's been on the show so long that we've seen him get married and have a baby, and his baby's 3. And he's told so many hilarious stories about understanding the 9 words from this 2.5-year-old and the repetitive throwing of that he came up with a story of what if somehow Stewie reverts to being just a regular baby who no one can understand, and it's like his, and we love that, and we figured out a way to engineer that, but that's a whole new, so it's like as our children writers grow, we'll get new stories because their lives will change.
We'll mine them. We'll mine their lives and their brains until they're just gray jelly.
And we'll pay them as little as we can get away with paying them.
Union minimum.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. You clearly know the show.
You had great questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.